by way of an expert committee. And therefore, this expert committee of 5 members has been constituted by the Indore High Court.
But the historical data already compiled by British under the colonists and also by the ASI would prove that this was first constructed by Raja Bhoja. What happens next? You have asked the ASI to determine something which historians in the past have already underlined, that this was indeed the Vagdevi temple or the Saraswati temple built by Raja Bhoja.
See, Anand, you are absolutely right. And all these studies which have been done by the historians as well as by the archaeologists, we had filed in our petition before the Honorable Court. But the point is this, that when the ASI passed an abrupt order on 7th of April 2003, without taking into note all these studies and historical records, we had to file another writ petition before the Indore High Court. And the point precisely is this, that the religious character it is our contention and submission. This premise in question is of a Hindu temple. So, this character has to be determined by a fresh inquiry, because all those inquiries which had happened in the past, court cannot take judicial notice of it, and a fresh inquiry has to be conducted in this writ petition so that it can become a part of record of the court. So, therefore, after hearing both the sides, Honorable Indore High Court has directed an ASI survey of this premises in question. A 5-member team will be has been constituted by the Honorable Indore High Court. Within 6 weeks, this report has to be submitted. GPR survey, GPS survey, excavation, carbon dating, other dating exercises, everything is included in this survey. And I think when this report of survey will come, it will help the court to ascertain the religious character of the premise in question in terms of section 16 of the ASI Act 1958. You are absolutely right that these studies and exercises have been done in the past, but not of this magnitude. Let me inform you, the only study conducted in 1912 asked by me. So this is a very comprehensive study and detailed study which have been asked and which has been directed by the Honorable Indore High Court. So there are studies and scriptures and historical records to prove our case of the past, but just historical record is not sufficient to get the order of 7th of April 2003 set aside and to oust the Muslims from possession of this property.
So till then, is it status quo? Prayers for Hindus on Tuesdays and prayers for Muslims on Fridays?
The court has not disturbed the order of 7th of April 2003 as of now. This survey has to be conducted. Report will be submitted before the court, and then the court will hear the matter on merits.
Final question, start date of the survey, has it also been determined by the court?
See the operative portion of the order of the Indore High Court is very clear. They have directed the ASI to conduct the survey within 6 weeks and submit a report within 6 weeks. So it can start at any point of time.
All right. Vishnu Shankar Jain, thank you very much for speaking with us. So, a ripple effect of the litigation with Gyanvapi to determine the original exact religious character of a place which has been under dispute. This is in Dhar in Madhya Pradesh, ladies and gentlemen, the Saraswati temple of Bhojashala. And this has had disputes in the past, and as a settlement in April 2003, the Archaeological Survey of India decided that Hindus will pray on Tuesday and also during Saraswati Puja and festivals, and Muslims would pray on Fridays. That itself has now been challenged by the Hindu Front for Justice, led by lawyers like Vishnu Shankar Jain, who've argued in favor of a proper a survey to be conducted by the ASI, the Indore High Court pushing that order and passing that ruling and saying within 6 weeks conduct the survey and come back to us. On that note, we're going to take a very, very short break. Stay with us.
Good evening, this is Rastax. I'm Zakir Jacob. The government has notified the rules for the Citizenship Amendment Act of 2019. The rules were notified 4 years after this controversial act was passed in Parliament. The government says this is a benign law which only grants citizenship to those non-Muslims, Hindus, Christians, Sikhs, Buddhists, who are feeling or fleeing persecution in Muslim-majority neighboring countries like Pakistan, Bangladesh and Afghanistan. And these are only people who are eligible to apply for citizenship under CAA are ones who came before the 31st of December 2014. The opposition, on the other hand, says this is a discriminatory law which is anti-Muslim. It also says that the fact that the rules are now being notified so close to the elections is because the BJP wants to polarize the electorate. So is this a poll tactic, as the opposition is alleging, or is this a genuine refugee protection law? But first, the story so far.
Modi is losing, therefore he is trying to polarize, to divert from the real issue of electoral bond. It's a diversionary tactic.
The BJP RSS combine links citizenship with religion, and our constitution doesn't make religion as the criteria for citizenship.
All right, so before we get into our debate, let's get you an overview of what CAA is and what it actually entails. There are some common FAQs, or frequently asked questions, around the CAA. Number one, who comes under the ambit of the CAA? It includes Hindus, Sikhs, Jains, Buddhists, Parsis and Christians who migrated from Pakistan, Bangladesh and Afghanistan until the 31st of December 2014 because of religious persecution in those countries. Question number two, why were only these three countries chosen, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Afghanistan, and why only religious persecution of these denominations? Now, the bill provides basically a remedy for these particular communities and these particular situations in which these 6 minority communities in those countries find themselves at the end or the receiving end of religious persecution. The Act will allow them a legal path to citizenship in India, a hastened path to citizenship in India. Question number three, will illegal Muslim immigrants from these 3 countries be automatically deported? The answer is no. The CAA so far, as the law has been passed in Parliament, has nothing to do with the deportation of any foreigner from India, irrespective of his or her religion. Question number 4. Does the CAA affect Indian Muslims? Remember, back in 2019-2020, there were riots, there were violence, there was protests, because there was a campaign of sorts, so there was this perception certainly that CAA will indiscriminately affect Indian Muslims. The answer is no. Indian citizens enjoy fundamental rights that are conferred by the Constitution, and no act of Parliament can tinker with those fundamental rights. Question number 5, why shouldn't the Baluchis, the Ahmadiyas, the Rohingyas, the Sri Lankan Tamils, etc. also be considered under the CAA? Now, they can apply to the Indian Citizenship Act as it existed, the older law, which is the 1955 Citizenship Act. There is no bar on any of these groups of individuals applying for citizenship under the older Act. Doesn't India have an obligation under the United Nations to take care of refugees? Right now, there are over 2 lakh Sri Lankan Tamils, Tibetan Buddhists, 15,000 Afghans, 20 to 25,000 Rohingyas and other refugees who are all presently in India much before the rules of the CAA have been notified. So let me then bring this up with our guests. Our full panel joining us tonight on Brass Tacks. Sanju Verma is National Spokesperson of the BJP. Smita Prakash is editor of ANI. Tehseen Poonawala is one of the petitioners against the implementation of the CAA. He's moved to the Supreme Court. Riju Datta is spokesperson of the TMC. Let me start with you, Sanju Verma. First and foremost, 2 points of attack from the opposition. Number one, you've taken 4 long years to notify these rules and you're doing it so close to the polls. It's with an eye on the polls and to polarize the electorate. And number 2, the familiar criticism against the CAA that it is discriminatory and it's anti-constitution and anti-Muslim. How would you respond to both these points?
Yeah, so Zaka, my limited response is this. As you rightly said in your introductory comment, CAA is not violative of Article 14 of the Constitution because it does not pertain in any form to Indian citizens, nor does it take away the fundamental right of any Indian citizen be it Buddhist, Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Jain, what have you. It basically only talks of giving legitimate citizenship to persecuted religious minorities, with the threshold date being 31st December 2014. I have this to say to those who are accusing the BJP of trying to run a polarizing agenda. Have Rohingyas who have illegally come to the country, because I was just in a debate where somebody asked me, are you going to throw illegal Rohingyas into the Arabian Sea? No. Are you going to throw illegal Bangladeshi migrants into the Bay of Bengal? No. But the Modi government at some point will obviously use its diplomatic heft to ensure that illegal Rohingyas, illegal Bangladeshi migrants go back to where they belong. It could be Bangladesh, it could be Myanmar, it could be Pakistan. The other lame argument is, why not give citizenship status to persecuted Hazaras or Baluchis or Ahmadiyyas from Pakistan? So the limited point is this: the sole purpose and the whole purpose of the amended CAA Act is about non-Muslim persecuted minorities. A Hazara or an Ahmadiyya or a Baluchi for that matter in most parts of Pakistan are not minorities. So this is about persecuted minorities, and hence we are talking of a Buddhist, a Jain, a Hindu, a Christian, what have you. But my last point to Mamata Banerjee, who today has been very vocal in her criticism. Way before Mamata Banerjee became Chief Minister in 2011, her predecessor Buddhadev Bhattacharya in 2007, in a public forum, and this is on record, he said they will give, they as in the West Bengal government will give legitimate citizenship status to persecuted Matua Samaj who have come from East Pakistan as in Bangladesh. 2007, aaj 2024 hai, 17 years hence, and for the longest time now, more than 10 years, it is Mamata Banerjee who's been in power. Ahead of elections, even as recently as 2021, she said, the first thing I will do after coming back to power is to give citizenship status to the Matua Samaj, who they loosely term as Naam Shudra, the Dalit community. मैं पूछना चाहती हूँ, the Matua Samaj today is still languishing in horrific camps in Bagjola in Nadia district. Mamata Didi, आपने तो कुछ किया ही नहीं, and you're giving lectures on integrity to Narendra Modi.
Riju Datta, please respond. A, this does not target any Indian citizen. B, this does not target any Muslims who may want to claim Indian citizenship. You can do as per the 1955 Citizenship Act, and most importantly, whether it is the Matuas, the Rajbanshis to some extent, what is the TMC and the rest of the opposition's problem with them getting expedited Indian citizenship?
Mr. Jacob, see, Trinamool Congress is the first party that said that we are going to go through the rules. And if the rules in any way, shape or form takes away the rights of the citizens of this country, we are the first party that will protest and will make sure it does not get implemented in Bengal. However, my Supremo will make a detailed comment on it because we are going through it point by point, sentence by sentence. But saying that, I have got a couple of questions for Sanjuji before I make my comment. My comment is very simple. In 2019, this was passed in the parliament. Normally, it takes 1.5 to 2 months to formulate the rules. You took 4 years. Why didn't you have the guts to implement this 6 months ago? Why just before the election? Why before the election? Because it is another carrot and stick policy of the BJP to deceive, misguide and fool the people of this country. Because Modi's guarantee means only Modi's jumla to fool people. Now she talked about Rohingyas. Now my question is, if there are illegal Rohingyas in this country, the Rohingyas are coming to the porous border of this country. The borders of this country needs to be protected by the Home Department under Amit Shah. Then this incompetent Home Minister should resign first before raising fingers and anybody else. And my last and limited point about Matuas that she made. If she is saying that the Matuas are so unwell, the Matuas are living in such disarray in Bengal, then please explain to me how Matuas in Bengal have exercised their voting rights, have elected an MP from Bengal called Shantanu Thakur, who is a minister in the Modi cabinet and he is the shipping minister in the Modi cabinet. So either he is not an Indian citizen or what Sanjuji is saying is an absolute blatant lie.
Sanju Verma, I'll come back to you in just 1 second, please, because I have Smita Prakash and Tehseen Poonawala waiting. So, Smita Prakash, you know, the fundamental question that the opposition is asking is, by saying that only non-Muslims who are persecuted for religious reasons from these three countries, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Afghanistan, will be eligible for citizenship, fast-tracked or expedited citizenship under CAA. And this is the plea before the Supreme Court as well, that you are granting citizenship basis religion, that you are excluding one set of people, even though they may be persecuted, like the Ahmadiyas and others, even if they are being persecuted, you are excluding them because of the sole criteria of religion. So, religion-based citizenship is fundamentally against the Constitution of India. This is the contention of the opposition. This is what the opposition has gone to court for as well in challenge of CAA.
See, I think, Zaka, that question was answered by Sanju when she said that this is not anti-Muslim, anti-Indian Muslim. Muslims are not in minority in Pakistan, Afghanistan, Bangladesh, the three neighboring countries of ours. So they are not there, or even in Myanmar for that matter, the Rohingya Muslims. So the point is that if they are persecuted minorities, that isn't a prerequisite for CAA. I think people just generally get it that the bill is not anti-minority, anti-Indian minority. In these countries, in these three neighboring countries, they are not minorities. So why should Muslims from these countries need to be citizens of India? They can be citizens of any other country. Now, Shias, Ahmadiyas, Rohingyas, they can take refuge in India as asylum seekers. Why do they need to be why do they need to be citizens of this country? I can't get it. The other point which keeps coming back and forth, which I'm seeing on Twitter, which I'm seeing on television channels is, why now? Why not in 2023? Why not in 2020? Why today? Today because it's Ramzan. I mean, there is really no limit to this, Some could have said it's because, why not on Mahashivratri? Why? Because there's a cosmic reason. A day was chosen, Amavasya, no moon. So violence can happen on a no moonlight. The thing is, and then you can, if you go on the minority path, you can say, why not on Good Friday? That will hurt minority. In our country, we have thousands of gods and we have dozens of religions and sects. So, if you keep choosing the right day, you will never get it. There's always an election happening. There's always something or the other happening. I think by now, Zaka, people have figured out that the CAA does not take away anyone's rights. It grants rights to those who are seeking asylum in India. And yes, if some might feel that, that secular credentials of the Constitution are being violated because of this act, there is a way for that. They can take the judicial way for that. Tehseen is here. He can tell you. I mean, the fact is that there is a place where they can go and fight it out, despite the government's efforts to explain that this is not taking away anybody's citizenship. There is a disinformation campaign and there are doubts in the mind of the people. Those who have doubts can take the legal route. Those who are going to take the disinformation route, that might result in political upheaval in the weeks ahead.
No, so Tehseen Poonawalla, if no Indian citizen is going to be deported and there's no plan of any kind of deportation of anyone who's already in India, anyone whose citizenship papers are under process, even from these persecuted religious minorities in these three countries, none of them are going to be deported, then why is this fear-mongering campaign being spread by sections of the opposition on Twitter, otherwise as well, that इसके बाद तो लिस्ट आएगी, आपको कागज दिखाने पड़ेंगे, and if you don't have कागज, you'll be thrown out of the country. No one is going to be thrown out of this country. No act of parliament can violate Article 14 or 15 of the Constitution.
Or Article 21, Zaka. But thank you so much for having me on the show. And let me explain to you. Thank you, Zaka. And let me explain by your medium to the viewers why I have challenged CA, why it is anti-constitution, and why I believe that it is an act that this country should reject, and I hope the Honorable Supreme Court rejects. Now, first, point number one, the date of the CAA Act. The CAA Act says anyone who's come into India via the three countries, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Bangladesh, minorities, before 31st December 2014. This is an arbitrary date. Why 31st December 2014? Why not 30th December 2014? Why not 1st January 2015? Why not 26th January 2015? Why not 7th September 2018? It's a very arbitrary date. Laws can't be made on arbitrary dates. There has to be a reasoning behind why laws have to be made. It's an arbitrary date. Point
I'm
number
sorry,
one.
I'm
Point number two. May I please make my point? If you interrupt me, there's no point having me on the debate. So I will then leave because I've challenged it. The point when you interrupt me, what happens is the viewers can't understand. It makes sure it seems like
GST came into effect on 1st of
July
2018.
July 2017.
Yeah, 2017. Why? There's no reason for it, right? I mean, this is a semantic point. Make
There
a more
is
substantive point.
Can I please explain it? Look, don't break my flow. I'll explain it to you. Yes, 1st July 2017, I'm aware of it. But it only gives citizenship to those who've come before 31st December 2014. That's an arbitrary date. Laws cannot be made on arbitrary dates. For example, the Assam Accord that allowed certain amount of citizenship through an amendment in the constitution had 1971 when the Indo-Pakistan war was fought and Bangladesh was created. There's a reasoning behind dates. Laws can't be made because it sounds good in somebody's head, Zaka. It has to have a logical reasoning. The logical reasoning cannot be, as you put it on TV, that why not that. That why not
make
cannot
a
work in law.
substantive point.
That's
what is your substantive opposition
to
the CAA?
Zaka, let me give you the Zaka, thank you. That's the first point. I'm explaining to you the points why I've opposed it. I get your ego, but allow me to finish. If you keep interrupting me, I can't. Second point. The government via Article 7 and 8 of the Citizenship Act, Article 5 to 10, 7 and 8 specifically speaks about granting citizenship to citizens of Pakistan and 8 to anybody else who's prosecuted. 7 and 8 already give the government that power. This is after the Nehru-Liaquat Pact, against which Shyama Prasad Mukherjee resigned. So please understand, the Nehru-Liaquat Pact was made to give minorities in Pakistan and East Pakistan, now Bangladesh, rights in India. Shyama Prasad Mukherjee resigned against it. That's Article 7 and 8. Now let's come to the next point about it. Why the nations Bangladesh, Pakistan and Afghanistan? That's again a vague answer. And it's discriminatory not to Muslims, it's discriminatory to Hindus. Now allow me to explain. The BJP spokesperson spoke about Rohingyas being prosecuted. She's right. The Rohingya Hindus who are prosecuted, they have come from Myanmar into India. Myanmar is a neighbor of India. What is the criteria of three neighbors? Pakistan, Bangladesh, Afghanistan. Because Afghanistan was never a part of India. Myanmar was. So why not Hindus? Zaka, I will if you allow me to make my point. If this is going to be the point, I'll leave. Thank you, Zaka, for having me on the show.
One second. So, Tehseen,
thank you, Zaka.
Substantive point,
you cannot keep interrupting me.
The substantive point about why these three countries were chosen. One second. You've made a substantive point. 1 second, one at a time, please. One at a time.
Don't have me on the show.
Tehseen, hear me out, man. Calm down. You asked why these three countries.
Buddy, you had me on the show. I'm a guest.
Republic of Pakistan, it's the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan, and it's the Islamic Republic of Bangladesh. Bhutan is not an Islamic Republic. Nepal is an Islamic Republic. Sri Lanka is not an Islamic Republic. The persecuted minorities in those countries who want to come to India and apply for Indian citizenship already have an existing act, the Citizenship Act of 1955. Whereas the persecuted minorities in these three countries, which are avowedly Muslim countries, Islamic republics, it's there in the name of that country, they have a separate act. That's why these three countries.
Okay, now please, if you don't interrupt me.
So, Zaka, Tehseen has been rambling on and on, making little sense.
One second, Sanjuji, let him finish.
I'll come to you right after. Thank you so much. I'll leave. Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you, guys. Thank you. I can't do this. I can't be interrupted. This is sounding. I'm making points. You keep interrupting me. When the BJP spoke. Don't have me on the show.
Go ahead. You've been speaking for the last 5 minutes. First, you made semantic points.
No, I haven't, because you've kept interrupting me. I have not made one point without interrupting me.
Unfortunately, I can't rewind.
I knew those points were going to come in, so I would have given you the answers to those points.
No, go ahead. I'm waiting for you to make those answers.
I will give you the answers.
Yes, I'm waiting. Go ahead.
Yeah, so thank you. Now the Act, if you've read the Act does not say Muslim countries. If it said Muslim countries, it would be ultra vires of the Constitution that says secularism not only applies to Indian citizens, it applies to anyone coming to the country. So it will be ultra-wise in any case. It will be an ultra-wise of Article 21, 14, 15 that we just spoke. So the Act does not say Muslim countries. What the Act says is prosecuted minorities. Now take the example of Myanmar, where the majority is Buddhist, but Hindus are being prosecuted. Take the example of Sri Lanka, which is a Buddhist majority country, where Tamilian Hindus are being prosecuted. They are both bordering countries of India. Myanmar at one point was a part of India. Yet those Hindus coming from Myanmar and Sri Lanka do not get the same opportunity as a Hindu coming from Bangladesh, from Pakistan or from Afghanistan.
Okay, so let Sanju Verma respond to that. The Hindus who are getting persecuted in Sri Lanka, in
coming from Myanmar. That is the point that
Nepal,
has to be raised.
Presumably, why are they not getting the same expedited
Nepal is
citizenship?
Not a Hindu
expedited citizenship as the persecuted minorities from these three countries are coming. Yeah, Sanju Verma.
Okay. You know, towards the end, Tehsin made a pertinent point. I will answer this. I will quote Amit Shah when he was asked this question and what he said. First and foremost, let's be very clear. India is not a signatory to the Geneva International Convention pertaining to refugees of 1957 or the United Nations Refugee Protocol of 1967. So the first point is, we are not beholden or bound to provide legitimate citizenship or refugee status to just about anybody. That is the first point. The second point is why Bangladesh, Pakistan and Afghanistan? Because the CAA pertains to these neighboring countries with whom we have had historical ties. Point number 3, this should have been done 73 or 74 years back, when the Nehru-Liaquat Pact was signed on the 8th of April 1950. Unfortunately, Liaquat Ali died in 1951 October, but Gulzari Lal Nanda, even after the death of Nehru in 1964, and Gulzari Lal Nanda was the Labour Minister and Home Minister under Nehru, he said that if there is one thing that should have happened and did not happen for the longest time under the aegis of Nehru, it was to rehabilitate persecuted minorities via the Nehru-Liaquat Pact. So first answer to those who are saying, "Arey 4 saal deri ho gayi, you know, CAA 2019 में आप लेके आए थे, why are Modi and Amit Shah dilly-dallying?" अरे भाई साहब, जो 1950 में होना था वो 2024 में हो रहा है. आप लोगों ने 74 साल लगा दिए. सबसे longest time in the last 74-75 odd years, it was the Congress which was in power at the center. Second point to Riju Datta, who said, you know, Matua community has been voting for the TMC and, you know, blah, blah, blah. So let me tell Riju this. Both in 2019, the two major Matua seats, Bangaon and Ramaghat, the BJP was voted to power, not the TMC. Correct yourself, Riju. And the third point,
I just said
14.
That.
Can I please finish, Riju? You can rebut me. There are 15 Mathua seats in the Mathua belt of Nadia and North 24 Parganas. In the 2021 elections, BJP won 14 out of these 15 Mathua dominated seats. And for your query as to, you know, if Mathuas have not been given citizenship status, then how is Shantanu Thakur, a minister in the Modi cabinet? My answer is this. There are 30 million, as in 3 crore Mathuas in Bengal, out of which there are many who are homegrown Mathuas like Shantanu Thakur. But there are many who are refugees and they are languishing in Bajoli camp in Nadia. I'm talking about citizenship to these persecuted people languishing in the Bajoli camps. And my last point is this, I repeat, CAA has nothing to do with Article 14, Article 19, Article 21. There are 57 theocratic Islamic states. You know, none of them have ever said, let us give shelter to Rohingyas. India has still not thrown these Rohingyas into the Arabian Sea, despite not being a signatory to the International Refugee Protocol. We will use diplomatic.
I just have to say this.
First of all,
on national TV, people should not lie. There are no detention camps in Bengal. Point number 1. Detention camps are in the double engine.
There is the Bajoli camp in Nadia. Riju, you are lying.
Okay, let him finish, ma'am, please, ma'am. Yeah, Riju, yeah.
Detention camps are only in double engine Sarkar run Assam, where in the detention camps there are 11 to 12 lakh Hindus suffering, not Muslims or any other communities. Point number 1. Point number two, every citizen, every residing citizen of Bengal is already a citizen of India. There are no 1 crore, 2 crore Matuas. Every Matua person residing in Bengal is a citizen of this country. They vote for their rights. They
There
have
are Matua
voter cards,
refugees
they
who
have other
still don't
cards.
have a citizenship status.
They all have citizenship status. They have voted, and they have voted for BJP candidates, out of which one of them has become a minister in the Modi cabinet. So please do not peddle this narrative. In Bengal,
No, you are peddling
everyone
lies.
who's
Nadiad has the highest number of refugee camps for Matua community.
Ma'am, no, there's another way. There's another way, please. When one person is speaking, one person is speaking. Riju Datta, please. Riju Datta, please. Thank you.
I detest and despise liars on national TV.
And
I am saying categorically.
Yes, only Riju Datta, please, PCR. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much. My only simple point is, every single person of Bengal who votes for their representatives, be it Matua, be it Rajvanshi, be it any other community, irrespective of their political affiliation, caste, creed, color, religion, or language, is a citizen of this country. If they live here, if they work here, if their children are born here, if they go to school here, अगर ये इनकी जन्मभूमि है, अगर ये इनकी कर्मभूमि है, तो ये देश उतना ही उनका है जितना संजू वर्मा या रिजू दत्ता का है. So, if you try to take away their rights, we will not allow you to.
Okay, Tehseen made this point. One second. Tehseen made this point that, what about Sri Lankan Tamils? What about Hindu Rohingyas? What about others who flee from other Tibetan Buddhists, etc.? Now, as I explained at the top of the show, Tehseen, and I'm sure you paid attention, there is already an existing law since 1955 under which Sri Lankan Tamils, Hindu Rohingyas and Tibetan Buddhists have been applying and getting citizenship, and they can continue to avail through that act for the citizenship of India. So, no non-Muslim is going to get discriminated, or as you said, Hindus are going to get discriminated. Why? They already have a provision of a law that they can exercise. So again, it's part of a disinformation.
That's a very good. No, it's not. It's what I've challenged in court. That's a very good point you've raised. That's an excellent point. By the same logic, and I extend your logic further, Article 6 of the Constitution already applies for those who are, or whose grandparents or any parent or parents or grandparents were born in any part of undivided India, and Pakistani citizens can get Indian citizenship. So why you need a separate act? See, again, what you don't understand or is not being told by the BJP, when I say don't understand, what the BJP is trying to mislead is, the act gives the government of India sovereign powers to give anyone a citizenship. That is the sovereign domain of the government of India. Those act already exists. Now, Sanju Verma said, and I'm quoting her on this show, she said, nations we have a historical ties with. Can you explain to me what historical ties is? Does India not have historical ties with Myanmar, which was a part of India? It did. So the same Hindu who comes from Myanmar to India has to go through a long process of getting citizenship, but the same Hindu, if he migrates to Afghanistan and comes to India, before 31st December 2014 will get it in a jiffy. That itself is against the Constitution of India. You cannot discriminate even amongst refugees that way. That is the point I'm trying to make. Let me ask you about our neighbors, our maritime neighbors, Maldives, Mauritius. What about them? Hindus who come from there. Why not them? Tamilian Hindus. So if a Tamilian Hindu comes to India via Tamil Nadu, he will have to wait for the long process. But if the same Tamilian Hindu goes to Afghanistan and comes before 31st December 2014, he will get it in a jiffy. And why 31st?
No, he will not. He will not, because he is not an Afghan national. He is not persecuted in Afghanistan. So again, anyway, I'll give Smita Prakash the final word. Please
no, what if he goes to Afghanistan as a refugee and is prosecuted, so he escapes and comes here?
To Tehseen, yeah. Smita.
Yeah, this is a convoluted legal issue now. I think Tehseen is already in court. There's no point in me getting into legal semantics with him. It'll be just repeating what Sanju's been trying to bang her head against the wall to try and get him to understand that this is not against Muslims. This is not against Hindus. Generations of Tibetan Buddhists have lived in India. The Prime Minister of Tibetans in exile lived in India. He was born here. He lived here. here and he was made Prime Minister of Tibetans in exile. We've had politicians, Hindus who came in from Tamil Nadu, who came in from Sri Lanka, came to Tamil Nadu. They have been part and parcel of politics of Tamil Nadu. So, let's not get into persecution of Hindus who have come in from here or Buddhists who have come in from here. There is no persecution. India has opened its arms for asylum, for immigration, for migrants from all these countries. And don't say just Myanmar or Mauritius or Maldives or Afghanistan. We have people from across the world who have come and made India their home. So, this whole thing about eligibility is unfair and things like that. Yeah, fine, go to court and fight it. What I'm worried is that there should be no fallout, political fallout in the sense of violence on the streets that we saw in 2019, and I have my fingers crossed.
Okay, we'll see how the story plays out. Thank you very much to all our guests. We'll see whether this has any electoral impact or whether this goes beyond the immediacy of elections. But for now, let's shift focus to the immediacy of elections. And I want to focus on the state of Andhra Pradesh, because over the weekend there was a significant development there. Now it is a formal alliance. The NDA has expanded in the state of Andhra Pradesh. It has the BJP, the Telugu Desam Party and the Janasena of Pawan Kalyan. All three parties are coming together. They've announced their alliance over the weekend. They'll be taking part in the Lok Sabha polls as well as the Andhra Pradesh Assembly elections, which are happening simultaneously together as an alliance. These three parties sealed their alliance following a second round of talks involving some of the senior leadership of both parties. This happened over the weekend. On seat sharing, TDP Supremo and former Chief Minister Chandrababu Naidu has said that they have agreed to a political alliance. However, which party gets which seat and how many number of seats, that will be figured out in the due course of time. According to sources, the TDP has agreed to give 6 Lok Sabha seats to the BJP and 2 Lok Sabha seats to the Janasena. It's got 25 seats in the state of Andhra Pradesh. Apart from this, out of 175 assembly seats, 30 may be given to the alliance partners by the TDP. The further division of these 30 seats will be decided between the BJP and the Janasena. Now, if we look at the numbers and the numbers game as per the 2019 Lok Sabha polls, the three parties combined, that is the TDP, the BJP and the Janasena, add up to 47.02% vote share. The YSRCP still has a slight edge. So even when these three parties come together, the YSRCP has almost 50% vote share. This is the 2019 Lok Sabha picture. It has almost 50% vote share, 49.88. YSRCP is still in a dominant position. The Congress has 1.3%. But I can explain this to you on the magic wall to break down why this alliance was almost essential for the opposition in that state of Andhra Pradesh. Because if you look at the difference currently between the NDA and the YSRCP is 46.6. So let's say 47%, and this is 49%. So it's a 2% gap between the combined NDA and the YSRCP. But if you were to look at the NDA itself, the TDP's vote share in the 2019 Lok Sabha was less than 40%. So 40 to 49, that's a 9% gap. So the TDP on its own, if it were to fight the YSRCP, it has to overcome a 9% gap. The BJP adds about 1% vote share, which will naturally increase in this election because the BJP has expanded its base in Andhra Pradesh and also it's fighting in an alliance with TDP and Janasena this time around. It was not last time around. So the BJP's vote share will go up from the 1% that it clocked in the 2019 Lok Sabha. And the JSP, the Janasena party, had almost a 6% vote share. So you add 6 plus 1, 7 to the almost 40%. So then you go back to that differential of 47, almost 47% for the NDA and 49% for the YSRCP. So a 2% swing is a manageable swing. A 9% swing is almost like a mountain to climb. And that's perhaps one of the reasons why the three parties, the TDP, the Janasena and the BJP have come together. Let me now go across to our guests who are joining us on this. Mr. Narayanamurthy is spokesperson of the YSRCP. We're also joined by spokesperson of the Telugu Desam Party, Mr. K. Pattabhiram. Let me start with the YSRCP spokesperson. Mr. Narayanamurthy, I just explained the dynamics of why these three parties have come together. The only way they can take on your party, the numbers, purely from the numbers point of view, is by coming together. And if they do, as I explained on the magic wall, the gap between the NDA and the YSRCP significantly narrows down to 2% or less. That is a gap that they feel confident they can take on. So there's pure electoral math behind the decision to take on the YSRCP and for these three parties to come together. Mr. Narayanamurthy?
Yeah, I'll let you know exactly because of that. I hope you understand. I found some errors in the numbers you told me there. Lastly, 2019, they scored only for 39% of the votes, and Janasena scored only 5.5% of votes. And BJP scored only less than 1%. It altogether 45% only. But YSRCP scored 49.9% votes. So there are a lot of gap. And in spite of gap, as a government, YS Jagannath Reddy Garu has done a lot of things which they misused in 2019 when they ruled Andhra Pradesh and cheated the farmers and the women and the youth in terms of the jobs and waive of loans for the women, Dwakra women groups, and also total development they screwed up.
No. So see, that is for the voters of Andhra Pradesh to decide. I am not going to prejudge them. You can't prejudge them. None of us can prejudge them. No. But I'm saying purely from an electoral math point of view, it is almost impossible for the TDP to have taken on the YSRCP alone, on its own. It needs alliance partners, and this is where perhaps the YSRCP's game may be being exposed, because if you look at neighboring Tamil Nadu also, it started off as an ADMK-DMK principal sort of political fight, but ultimately now it's about the alliances. The TDP, Jansena, BJP alliance together, the sum of parts is greater than just YSRCP alone.
They lose the battle 2024 much worse than 2019, because now minority votes will not be there for the BJP because the alliance with BJP, and they have not done, they misused the power 2014-19 because of the missed promises, war promises in 14. So people are not believing till Telugu Desam and Janasena also. He promised, I will take up and I am there to give the whatever the promises Chandrababu Naidu doing for the people of Andhra Pradesh. He escaped from the Andhra Pradesh and he settled in Telangana, whatever, Hyderabad.
Okay. So, Mr. Pattabhi Ram, this is an alliance of desperation, an alliance of compromise. There's no way, purely going by the numbers, you could have taken on the YSRCP by just contesting individually. Therefore, all three of you are pulling your priest. No, let Mr. Pattabhi Ram respond, not you. Thank you. Let Pattabhi Ram respond, yes. He's saying you will lose with a bigger margin than 2019.
Good evening, Zaka. I don't agree with your argument. I don't agree with your statement saying that this is an alliance out of desperation and TDP alone, unable to face YSR Congress party, had stitched up an alliance. See, you're talking about the percentages and numbers in 2019, and a lot of water had flown down the bridge. Now there is a huge change in the people of Andhra Pradesh. They have seen the kind of destruction that Jagan Reddy had created in the past 5 years. He had completely destroyed the brand image of AP. People all across the state are suffering very badly, and they want this dictator to be dislodged at any cost. And it is the people who wanted the opposition to unite because they wanted the victory to be decisive. They wanted the victory to be decisive. It is not that TDP alone cannot, compete with the YSR Congress party. The TDP's vote percentage, if you compare it with 2019, TDP alone had increased its vote percentage by around 8 to 9% alone. Now with Janasena and BJP put together, we are anywhere between 55 to 60%.
No, so one second. Since you're talking numbers, Mr. Pattabhi Ram, one second, please. Let me just explain this. I want to go back to the 2014 Lok Sabha, which was, of course, one of the first elections there in that state, the 2014 Lok Sabha, YSRCP had 8 MPs. The TDP and BJP, TDP had 15 MPs, the BJP had only 2. But look at the vote share, and this is where it's critical. The TDP's vote share, even when they won 15 MPs, was only 40%, 40.35%. Whereas the YSRCP, even though it had lesser number of MPs, it had only 8 MPs compared to the 15 of the TDP, almost half of the number of MPs, their vote share was 45.33%. So it was more than 5% higher than the TDP's vote share. So again, when it comes to data, it's there on the magic wall. The numbers don't lie, Mr. Pattabhiram. The YSRCP's vote share has been consistently above that of the TDP, even in 2014 when they won fewer MPs. In 2019, of course, it was a different scenario. They won much more number of MPs and their vote share increased by about 4%. Whereas the TDP's vote share between 2014 and 19 only came down by about 1%, but it has not gone above 41, 42%. So clearly there is a arithmetic, cold electoral arithmetic logic for why these three parties have come together. Otherwise, if you are so confident that you can dislodge Jagan Mohan Reddy on your own, then TDP should contest on its own, Mr. Pattabhiram.
I've told you, we want to completely decimate YSR Congress Party. That is what people want. People want YSRCP to be erased from the political picture of Andhra Pradesh. We want the victory to be decisive. That is the people's wish. That is why we have come together. You will see YSR Congress Party will be reduced to single digit. It will be reduced to single digit because now Zaka, please ask him not to interrupt, Zaka. Please ask him not to
interrupt. Mr. Narayan.
See, you should remember the fact that Jagan Reddy's own sister, is asking the people of Andhra Pradesh not to vote for him.
Okay, Mr. Narayan Murthy, no, this is not the way. I'll come back to you. Let him finish, please.
Yeah. Dr. Sunita, who happens to be the daughter of late YS Vivekananda Reddy, who was brutally murdered by the henchmen of Jagan Reddy, she held a press meet in Delhi and she was appealing to the people not to vote for my brother. Don't vote for my brother Jagan Reddy, his own.
No, even Sharmila has said that Jagan Mohan Reddy needs to be defeated. So please, Mr. Narayana Murthy, final word to you. The fact that, a senior opposition figure was arrested in the middle of the night, and that too on the G20 morning, and treated like an ordinary criminal, and now he's out on bail on almost all of these cases. And the High Court orders, if you peruse, the High Court orders are very, very clear that many of these charges are flimsy. So that is a perception, that is a political problem that certainly Mr. Jagan Mohan Reddy needs to address. That he is being viewed as a quasi-dictator. His sisters are saying it. Forget about the opposition. Mr. Narayana Murthy.
Where is Bhuvaneshwari? Where is Chandrababu Naidu? Chandrababu Naidu is the brother-in-law of Bhuvaneshwari. Where is Bhuvaneshwari? No, they are in different parties. No, why?
No, 1 second. I make the same appeal, Mr. Pattabhiram. No, let Narayana Murthy finish, please. Please, no crosstalk. No crosstalk, please. Father is there in another party, and father is there in another party. Daughter is there in another party, and father is there in another party. What are you talking about? No, it's not other party business. The fact is that the arrest, the manner of the arrest, and the trumped up charges, and the courts giving bail, all of this will play a role. All of this is being watched by the people of Andhra Pradesh.
Yes, 2014 also they used the same trick, but no, people voted for the Jagan Mohan Reddy. 49%. You are quoting less than this. 49% we scored. They scored 50% in the 2014. 2019.
No, you're talking about assembly. I'm talking about Lok Sabha. But anyway, be that as it may, let's see. No. Please don't challenge me on numbers. I never get my numbers wrong. We'll leave it at that. Thank you very much, Mr. Narayana Murthy, Mr. Pattabhiram. Let us see how this story plays out. Like I said, there is a cold, hard arithmetic logic for why these three parties have come together, because on their own, they would not have been able to match up to the vote share of the YSRCP. But it's not just about electoral arithmetic, it's also about chemistry. Whether there is chemistry between these three allies, that is something that the people of Andhra Pradesh will decide. But a deep dive into the push for a ceasefire amid the Israel-Hamas conflict. Everyone was hoping, from the US president downwards, that there will be a ceasefire. by the start of the holy month of Ramadan. That has already begun, but there is no ceasefire. It still remains elusive. And now there is public sparring between Joe Biden and Benjamin Netanyahu on what is holding up this ceasefire and whether or not Israel is doing enough to prevent the mass civilian casualties that have been taking place as a consequence of this war. That deep dive coming right up.
Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim.
As the Muslim holy month of Ramadan begins, the expected ceasefire in Gaza is still elusive. US President Joe Biden has asserted that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was hurting Israel more than helping Israel. This was in the context of the Israeli Prime Minister being obstinate about the details of the ceasefire deal. In turn, Netanyahu has dismissed Biden's contention as wrong. This now escalates what is a public disagreement between the leaders of US and Israel. Netanyahu, in an interview with Politico, challenged Biden's assessment of Israel's military strategy in the Gaza war. He said that his policies represented the overwhelming majority of Israelis. This is what Netanyahu said, and I quote, "I do not know exactly what the president meant, but if he meant that I'm pursuing private policies against the wish of the majority, then the wish of the majority of Israelis, and that this is hurting the interests of Israel, then the president is wrong on both counts," unquote. An excerpt from that interview was released by the office of the Israeli Prime Minister. But before that, over the weekend, Joe Biden had chastised Netanyahu over the rising civilian death toll in Gaza. At the same time, he also reaffirmed American support for Israel. Biden said that Netanyahu had a right to defend Israel, a right to continue to pursue Hamas, but that he must pay more attention to innocent lives that are being lost as a consequence of the actions taken so far. Biden went on to say that in his view, Netanyahu's policies are hurting Israel much more than helping Israel. He said it is contrary to what Israel stands for and called it a big mistake. And that's why he said he wants to see a ceasefire.
He has a right to defend Israel, a right to continue to pursue Hamas, but he must pay more attention to the innocent lives being lost as a consequence of the actions taken. He's hurting, in my view, he's hurting Israel more than helping Israel by making the rest of the world, it's contrary to what Israel stands for. And I think it's a big mistake. So I want to see a ceasefire. And I'm starting with a major exchange of prisoners for a 6-week period. We're going into Ramadan. It should be nothing happening. And we should build off of that ceasefire.
Now, this sparring comes amid mounting humanitarian crisis in Gaza. The United Nations is warning of a looming famine in the enclave, which has more than 2 million people. Health officials in Gaza over the weekend said that at least 25 people, most of them children, had died simply because of malnutrition and dehydration in the last few weeks. On Sunday, the US military said that an army vessel, the General Frank Besson, had set sail towards Gaza. It's carrying equipment to build a floating pier off the coast of Gaza. The US is hoping to deliver food aid using this pier from the sea into land in Gaza. Besson is a logistics support vessel. It's carrying the first equipment to establish a temporary pier and then deliver vital humanitarian supplies. But the Pentagon also had a word of caution. It said that this whole project of delivering aid from the sea could take weeks to complete. The Biden administration's plan for a pier and a causeway was announced last week. The US is hoping that eventually this sea route will be able to deliver as much as 2 million meals every single day for the residents of Gaza. Some humanitarian officials, though, have criticized this approach. They say that delivering aid by trucks or by a convoy of trucks is far more efficient. American officials do acknowledge that deliveries by sea as well as airdrops, which they've done about 4 or 5 of them since the last couple of weeks, those are not as effective as the overland delivery of food. But Israel, of course, has greatly limited aid entering Gaza. The Pentagon also said that one of the main military units that is involved in the construction of the floating pier will be the Army's 7th Transportation Brigade, and that about 1,000 American service members will be working to complete this pier. The Israeli military will also coordinate in the installation of the pier. This was confirmed by a spokesman for the Israeli military, Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari. Shipments will be first inspected by Israeli troops before they are handed off to the aid groups who will then distribute these supplies. The start of the Muslim holy month of Ramadan usually brings a time of religious devotion. Muslims across the world take part in fasting from dawn to dusk. There are also family gatherings and nightly feasts. But in Gaza, after 5 months of this war, all of that seems like a distant dream, something that is not a reality for ordinary Gazans. According to the Gazan Health Ministry, an estimated 30,000 plus Palestinians have been killed since this operation began in October. On the 7th of October, a Hamas-led attack on Israel killed about 1,200 Israelis. Meanwhile, the international authorities are hoping to reach a ceasefire before Ramadan. Those hopes were completely dashed over the weekend. And this happened because Hamas is repeating its demand for a comprehensive ceasefire. Israel is not willing to accept a full stop in this war. Egypt, Qatar and the United States had sought to broker a truce between Israel and Hamas. They wanted to do that before the start of Ramadan. In fact, Joe Biden was on record that he is certain that there will be a ceasefire before the 10th of March when Ramadan began. There had been optimism for a last-minute deal that would allow for the release of some Israeli hostages who were held in Gaza. In return, the Palestinians would get some of their folks who were held in Israeli prisons, some of them for heinous crimes. But weeks of indirect negotiations completely fell through over the weekend, and that in turn led a top Hamas political leader, Ismail Haniyeh, who went on television, and in a speech on Sunday he said that Hamas wanted the agreement that would end the war. They wanted a guarantee of the complete withdrawal of all Israeli forces from Gaza, and they also want all displaced Palestinians to return to their homes, whether in the West Bank or in Gaza. Back on Friday, David Barnea, who is the chief of Mossad, which is Israel's intelligence agency, met with the CIA director William Burns. The effort was to try and advance and to try and push through a deal that would release hostages. The Mossad accused Hamas of trying to inflame the region. They said that Hamas is only interested in political survival, even at the expense of the residents of Gaza. But all sides were hoping that a ceasefire would come to pass. That was not to be. But now, with fighting happening in the holy month of Ramadan, that would only further alienate Israel, particularly in the Muslim world. There have been clashes in the holy month of Ramadan between Israel and Palestinians, most notably back in 1967 in the Arab-Israeli War. At that time, Israel was challenged by both Egypt as well as Syria. It's a war that Israel won. But given the current context and given the current war, 5 months plus of relentless aerial and ground bombardment, and the fact that the civilian toll has reached 30,000 plus, much to the dismay of not just Israel's critics around the world and Palestinian supporters, but even Israel's friends, both in the United States as well as in Europe, that is going
presented by